All right. Will we just do the, I forget, introduction first, or do we have performance?
We call the meeting to order.
Oh, yes. I'd like to call, could I get a motion to call the meeting to order?
Sure.
It is not on, thank you.
I'll turn them on.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
As long as we're not talking about
I
it.
test them too.
Could I get a motion to call the meeting to order?
Motion to call the meeting to order. Olga.
Seconded by.
I'll do a good start.
Off to a good start. All right, and if I hear no objections, the meeting is now open. Hearing none, we're good to go.
All right, Chair, I can call the roll.
All right, can we get a roll call in this minute?
Sure can. Brian Granoff.
Here.
Corey Spencer.
Here.
Michael Stahl.
Present.
Olga Montez.
Here.
And Chair Aberizik.
Here.
All right.
All right, good evening and welcome to the September 10th, 2024 Zoning Board of Appeals regular monthly meeting for the Village of Ossining. This is a public hearing that is quasi judicial. We're using a hybrid format for today's meeting like normal. The public was invited to attend either the in-person or the virtual Zoom meeting. During the public hearing, we will always invite in-person attendees to speak first and then virtual attendees so that we keep everything efficient and civil. In order to participate, please do the following. So members of the public attending online may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you'd like to make a comment, and we'll give you an opportunity to do that at that time. Those attending via telephone can press *9, and the meeting host will see that your hand is raised and that you press *9, and we'll unmute you and bring you into the room so you can speak. For anybody in the room, you'll be first. It'll be easy. Come up to introduce yourself and your address, and then we'll have you speak. During the meeting, and we do check this live because we have great staff, comments can be emailed to the Village Planning Department at plan@villageofossining.org. This meeting will be recorded and a transcript of the meeting will be available at a later date on our website. So ground rules. When you are given the opportunity to speak, whether in person or online, please state your name and address. If you are speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter, which is the subject of the hearing, i.e. don't go off topic. If any speaker is inappropriate, they will be immediately cut off and access removed. Luckily, we've never had to do that. If you need to have a conversation or take a call, we just ask that you exit the room and please go down the hall because your call will echo back into the room. So just head out to the front. And with that, I want to also let you know that aside from the board members, we have some non-board members. We have Maddie Zahach, our assistant village manager. We have Joseph Agustinelli, our building inspector, Jamie Kane, online, our board secretary. We have Taryn Ramey, who's our assistant land use attorney, and that's it. So could I get a motion to approve the July 2024 meeting minutes?
Motion to approve, Brian.
Seconded, Olga.
Second, Olga, great. I believe everybody was here for that, so we can all,
Corey was not.
Corey was not here, okay. So outside of Corey, could we get a roll call vote?
Sure can. Michael Stahl.
Yes.
Brian Granoff.
Yes.
Olga Montez. Yes. Chair Aberizik.
Yes.
All right.
All right, with that, the meeting minutes from July 2024 are approved. Moving on to our new business of the board. Our first up is ZBA 18-2024, 50 Underhill Road. This applicant is seeking a variance to install a fence that is 4 feet in height in the front yard. Could I have the applicant? Oh, you're the applicant? Great. Just introduce yourself and your address.
Sure, Mia Nadesky from 50 Underhill Road.
Amazing. So everyone here is given access to this in advance, but do you want to just give us a quick summary of the request?
Yeah, so I have put in a fence around the entire perimeter of my yard, and the front fence, the requirement in Ossining or the regulation is to be only 3 feet high, and I would like to make it a 4-foot fence in the front, mainly because I have dogs and I don't want the dogs. It's a very busy road on Underhill, and I'm afraid they might get out and get onto the road. And so that's the main reason for it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
I think
picture
Maddie's
too.
just opening stuff up too.
Just shopping.
Yep.
Sorry.
And what's there down there?
There's Right now, well, there's a construction fence in front because it's under construction, so I'm just finishing up the construction, so, I'm about to pave the driveway, and that's what I wanted to, this is one of the last things I need to do before I apply for the CO. The fence, there is a fence all the way around the property already, also. And see the 5-foot fence, I actually installed a 4-foot fence in the front piece there,
Mhm.
not realizing I had to come and get approval for 4 feet. The fence guy thought it was 4 feet, but that's only on that one length. So I would have replaced it with 3-foot before I got the CL, but if I get approved for the 4-foot, I'll just leave that and continue it on.
Maddie, are there any renderings or photos of the fence to be installed?
I do not see that
I
unless
have
we have.
one here. Yeah,
Oh, you
that's-
have, okay.
Yeah, that's the picture I have. I have a few copies of it.
So
It matches the side yard fence.
Yeah.
Typically, we just ask that those be submitted so that it's part of the public record.
Okay, sure.
But if you want to pass it around.
That's okay,
the
board can look at it.
Thank you.
We can post it.
oh, there's a couple here, so I'll just pass
Oh,
them.
excellent.
May I ask why is a 3-foot fence not sufficient enough?
Yeah, because I'm afraid the dogs could get up over a 3-foot fence. Is really all that is. And the 4-foot fence is just high enough that I'm sure they can't get it, you know? And my neighbor did have dogs that used to escape over their fence. And so I'm just concerned, just, the Underhill is very busy. And,
May I ask the breed of the dogs?
it's just a rescue.
Like large?
No, she's not a large dog. She's a little dog, but she's very active. And she's actually 14 years old, but I'm gonna have future dogs, I'm sure, so.
And is there any issue with regard to the property line, with regard to
No,
crosswalks or pedestrian access from across the street, onto that side of the road or anything of that sort?
well, I'm going to have a gate, a pedestrian gate in the front by the driveway, and then a driveway gate just across the front, where that's shown also.
Mhm.
Also 4 feet high. We had talked about, you can only get 5 feet commercially, but I can have one made that's 4 feet high. So I'm gonna have it made that matches the one that I want, and have a 4-foot gate, and then right next to it, I'll have an entry gate for the mailman. I do have gates on either side to my neighbors, to my adjacent neighbors. I have the fence, but I have a gate on both of those sides, just for access. And then
seeing-
I back up on Macy Park, and I have a chain link along the back side and I have a gate in there to Macy Park.
Question for maybe Taryn. Do you know if this is the same zoning district as the last 4-foot fence? We-
No,
Not the same area, but it's a different district.
it's a different zoning district.
Different zone.
That was for the condo in the.
Yeah,
This is
Two
S
front yards.
100.
Yeah.
Single family.
I just forgot the other zoning district. It's probably a PUD.
There is a picture of the front in there as well.
Mia, do you know which document? Is it in the cover letter? No?
I know there's a bird's eye view photos of site.
Oh, yeah.
731.
that
That's
was
just this guy, right?
Yeah, so you can
Oh,
see
yeah,
the
that's the
construction
bird's eye.
fence.
Google Street View would be helpful too.
You got it.
Curious how far back the fence is proposed off the street?
Well, there's a survey stake. It's actually it's exactly gonna be where the construction fence is, which is put in from my property. Oh, yeah. That was before, well, that's the construction fence. It's gonna go exactly where that is. And you can see the telephone pole right behind there is a survey stake. Actually, if you spin to the other telephone pole on the other side, see that orange little flag right there? Yeah, that's actually the survey
And
line
Joe,
on both sides. So the side fence is put in.
and Joe, I'm assuming as of right, everything's set back appropriately because it's only the height that's on the variance application.
Yeah, and you can install your fence along your property line as long as it's on your property and not in the village's right of way or on the neighbor's property, but the only issue with this is just the height of the front yard.
You should across the street as well. Just to
Yeah.
show the board.
Well, see, that's technically his side yard, so he has a much larger, he's a 6-foot fence, and that's also side yard. If you spin a little bit further, there's a front yard right there. It's set back a little. They have a fence
These guys?
back.
Mm,
And so is the property next door to the left.
Across the street.
Directly across the street.
Yeah, but when considering the neighborhood, it's
Yeah.
adjacent, so.
The chain link fence over the right there.
Did you consider mounding the soil along the perimeter and then building a 3-foot fence?
Oh, like having a berm and then mounting a
I
fence
think I
up there?
actually see it in the other addition, Jason. Back. Yeah. See the way it's mounded. I guess
Well, that's
what I-
kind of how mine
Yeah,
is.
right.
It's, well, it's not as high as his is. There's a little bit of a height, but not too much.
I don't, other than what was in the packet and what we asked, I don't have any questions for the public hearing. Any of the board members have more questions?
No, I did want to offer some information for anybody who's not familiar with that road. You can kind of see as Maddie is zoning around, you see there's a sharp bend over there behind that white car, and on the opposite side, there's another sharp bend. The visibility in that block right in front of her house is, like, if you're coming this way, you don't see what's coming this way. It's very little. And I sometimes see kids, which is nothing to do with your case, but I see kids walking along there, and if you see, there is no path for them to walk. So for that reason alone, I'm mentioning it, is that if any animal gets loose there, like, there's just a prayer that you won't catch it because you can't see it. Her house is here, and there's a bend here and a bend here.
I always think of the Clinton's dog getting out onto the road and getting hit, like.
Oh, I didn't know about that, but yeah.
Well,
and
that was in.
that is a very busy road. It goes behind where the high school is. People do the shortcut there, and buses go through there a lot.
So just to keep things efficient, because we have a lot of stuff on the agenda, does anybody else, any new questions?
I just wanna, I get a refresher on the law. I just, because it's dependent on the corner or if it's not a corner, right? If it's 3 foot versus 6 foot. So is this technically a corner?
No, the front
Front yard.
In your front yard, which is, if you do the front facade of the building from property line on the right side to the left side. From that point all the way to the front property line is considered your front yard. That whole area has to be 3-foot fence. On a corner property, you actually have to reduce the fence down to about 2.5 feet. It's 30 inches in height. And that's measured from the corner on both sides of the property by 30 feet. And that area for traffic safety has to actually be 30 inches in height. But this isn't considered a corner, so on this one, it's allowed to be 3 feet up.
Unlike,
Right.
just for reference, because I think everyone on the board might remember where I stood on the last fence we had before. The difference between that fence and this fence is see-through, like the one that was across the street. And the other fence was closed, minus the top of it.
Yeah, I'm not looking to do for privacy. I like to have people be able to see them, just in case, anything's happening. I don't want to be closed off.
Anything else? Could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing, Brian.
Second, Corey.
All right, if hearing no objections, then the public hearing will be open. Hearing none, public hearing is now open. Is there anybody to speak on this application besides the applicant? Anybody online? I see Josh and Oscar. Raise your hand now virtually or forever hold your peace. And the internal countdown is done. Did I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Seconded, Olga.
All right. If there are no objections to closing the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Do we have any more discussion before going over the 5 factors? All right, take it away, Taryn.
All right, well, as the board knows, in determining whether to grant the applicant's request for an area variance, the board must balance the benefit to the applicant against any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So the 5 factors the board must consider. The first factor is whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting the area variance.
All right,
In other words,
you want to take us through?
that was the first factor.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say, there is. First, I'm gonna mess up the words. There's no detriment to the character. In fact, I'm looking forward to being able to finish your house. I know it's been a long time.
Yes.
I think it's just gonna be, great to finally see that property finished.
Corey, it looked like you had something to say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it fits the character of the neighborhood well, but.
There are other fences in the area, but they all looked solid, so it's actually nice that there will be an open fence there versus a solid fence. And the others are 6 foot as of right, but I don't think it'll impact the neighborhood character.
Okay, the next factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
I'm gonna say yes, for the reason that, we are not supposed to take an individual homeowner's wants or needs into consideration. They prefer a 4-foot fence. However, I mean, even though it makes sense to me, the feasible alternative is doing 3 feet.
Mike also mentioned you could build a berm and then have 3 feet to make it higher.
Correct.
Mhm.
But that would involve bringing a lot of material into the area and things of that sort.
That might not necessarily be feasible.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the key word is feasible.
Yeah,
yeah, the house across the street is already kind of on a hill,
right.
as opposed to her lot is had been flattened out during construction.
It would be different if the applicant was proposing a fence, which was a solid fence that would cause either pedestrian or motor vehicle intrusiveness, and it's not the case with the openness of the fence.
The next factor is whether the requested area variance is substantial.
I don't think it's numerically substantial, and I don't think the impact would be substantial. Specifically because it's also open.
Agreed.
The next factor is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Same comment, if it was a closed, they could prevent wildlife movement, good or bad, but I don't think it's gonna have an adverse physical environmental impact.
And other fences are kind of similar
Yeah.
height in the area, if not taller.
I feel like that street mandates fences. That piece of road right there, just because of all the activity through it, both vehicular and people on their bikes. I think it's necessary.
And finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance.
I do think it's self-created because it's a preference, and although it seems like we may be leaning towards approval, I do still think it's self-created hardship.
Those are the 5 factors of the board list.
All right, thank you so much. Based on what I heard from everyone's feedback, we might be inclined to approve, so could I get a motion to approve ZBA 18/2024 for the 4-foot fence?
Motion to approve, Ryan.
So moved, Olga.
Yes,
Oh, seconded, Olga, sorry.
it's all good. All right. Could we get a roll call?
Sure can. Brian Grano,
Yes.
Corey Spencer,
Yes.
Michael Spall,
Yes.
Olga Montez,
Yes,
and Chair Aberrizak.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so application approved. I do want to let you know that Joe's office will reach out to you with the official. Please don't start a new work with fence area until you get that. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Good luck.
Do you mind also emailing us a copy of
Oh,
the
the
photo
photo.
so we can add it to the
Yeah.
records? Thank you so much.
All right, next up, we have ZBA 19/2024 for 3 Elridge Avenue. The applicant is seeking a variance for rear yard setback for proposed construction of a rear yard deck, something we hear all the time. So welcome, if you could state your name and your address.
Good evening, Sarah Phillips, 3 Eldridge Avenue.
You're the owner?
I am the owner, applicant, attorney.
Oh, okay.
Wearing
great.
many hats.
Great.
Thank you.
So again, we don't need the full scope because we have access to it, but if you want to give us the.
Yeah. It's very simple. We have a deck. It's been up there since before we bought. It was built. There it is. It's red.
When did you buy it?
We bought in about 4 years ago, 2020.
Good time.
Great time. The deck is wood. It is not in good condition. It is not going to last much longer. We need to replace it.
So typically, I'm trying to look at the plan so I quote it correctly. We have decks that maybe a corner goes over the setbacks. Can you?
It is the corner right there, to the left.
Right.
Well, I'd say the vertical wooden post there, that was the first was.
Trying to get to your zoning worksheet. Here we go.
Right, that post.
Because this is the area where we have to be to the inch
Yes.
or inch less than an inch.
Okay. We have a worksheet on this one? Okay, there it is.
So
Yeah.
the rear yard setback, the requirements for this district are 30 feet. The existing conditions are 5.7 feet. They're proposing 5.25 feet.
Mm,
Um, small change. So it actually reduces the impact slightly, right?
I think on the plans, you can, I think on the plans, probably have that upper corner there shows you kind of a layout of the property. It's kind of a,
Existing versus the proposed,
Hmm.
so.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the property, the way it is on the site plan, it's kind of an odd shaped property to begin
What's
with.
it look like? It's triangular
Oh.
shape, right?
Triangle.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you can see that's why that corner of that deck is gonna be as close as it is to the property line.
Is it because of the stairs? Oh, no, it is because of the corner.
Yeah, go on, yeah. In order to produce a rectangular deck, you need to be that close to the fence line.
Yeah, even the house is gonna have an issue, but it's pre-existing anyway, so
Yeah.
there's no way.
Right.
And they did it on the widest part of the lot too.
Yeah.
The deepest, I should say, not the widest.
Personally, this is something we see frequently, this and stairs, so I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, something special.
Well, got any questions?
I do not.
Could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion open, Cory?
Seconded, Brian.
Amazing. Hearing no objections. Public hearing is now open. Is there anybody to speak on this application other than the applicant? Josh or Oscar? All right, head countdown is over. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close, Brian.
Seconded, Mike.
Thank you both. Hearing no objections. The public hearing is now closed. Karen, would you mind running us through the 5 factors?
Absolutely. So the first factor is whether granting the requested area variance would produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties.
I'm gonna say no, because it occupies the same space and is slightly smaller than that corner than the other one, so it's a little bit better, and it's looking pretty ready. So safety and look good. Hope you can translate my non-English.
I got you.
Anybody else on the first?
Okay.
Right. The second factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
I see none. So if the name alternative wasn't going to replace it where it exists now.
Due to the regular shape of the lot, especially.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I agree. They can make it smaller, but they could never have a deck there that is 30 feet away from that corner. I agree.
Third factor is whether the requested area variance is substantial.
I'm gonna say numerically it's substantial, but the impact is not substantial. It occupies virtually the same footprint.
Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood.
No,
No.
because it's like this thing, pretty much, it'd be like, almost like for like.
Mhm.
And finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
And although rare for me, I'm gonna say no, it was not self-created. It's a very weird shaped lot. We have a lot of skinny lots in Austin that have the same issue.
And it sounds like it was already dilapidated before she bought the house, so.
Okay, those are your factors.
All right, thank you so much. Based on that feedback, I think we're inclined to approve. So could I get a motion to approve ZBA 19-2024?
Motion to approve, Olga.
Seconded, Brian.
All right. I'd like to get a roll call, but should we specify for the record, just re-specify the exact variance requested? As stated on the application, it looks like 24.75 feet is the requested rear yard setback variance. All right. All the same, so could we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure can. Michael Stoll.
Aye.
Cory Spencer. Or the eye. Brian Graham.
Aye.
Olga Montez.
Aye.
Chair Aberrizak.
Aye. All right, unanimous approval, that's a good thing. Just make sure you wait for Joe to get the go-ahead in writing, and then you're good to start.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
All right, next up is ZBA 22-2024 5 Sherman Place. The applicant is seeking area variances for front and rear yard setbacks for a proposed new single-family residence.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
You could just state your name and address,
My name is Roman. I'm here for a 5 Sherman Place, representing the owner.
representing you.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're looking for a variance because we're planning to start building the property as was purchased with the plans. And the plan shows the entrance porch over the setback line on the front, and that was the reason that we were referred to this board. Now, the property was purchased under the intention to build the house as same as the one that is next door. So the architects made the same set of plans, and current construction next door is going through with the same kind of, I don't say, places on the front and the back, right? They can, and porch. So we would like to know if it's possible to make it happen.
For me, because I'm in the other lot, maybe variance.
Yeah, they built, originally this property was subdivided into 4 lots a number of years ago with the intent of building single-family homes there. And the first one that they developed was at 3 Sherman, which is right next door. It's under construction now. This will be the second one, and I believe what you're proposing, just as the applicant said, is pretty much similar to the one that was there. The original one at the 3 Sherman had to get variance as well.
Yes.
Oh, so it's an empty lot right now.
Right, but
I was like, what are the
That means
existing
online.
conditions?
no, those were subdivided and into
Okay, got
4
it.
lots. 2 of them face Sherman, 2 I think face Park.
Right.
But
Uh,
that-
but that first lot there is,
Yeah.
this
Okay.
is an older photo, that's already under construction.
Yeah, I saw a commercial use further down the street, isn't it?
That is,
Yeah.
yeah, towards Fifth Avenue in that direction, that's.
That would be the final lot there, and I see in the green. Right. you have to pick
Correct.
up traffic.
As a matter of fact, that building,
Yeah.
the brick building used to be in a single family district. It was rezoned and went into the NC district.
Right.
And the first property in the single family district on that side of the street is the one that's under construction.
Okay, gotcha.
It's this whole area in here is divided into 4, right, Joe?
So in,
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we like making really small lots and
It looks similar to the lots in the area, I would
Yeah.
say, when I looked it up, but the size of the house proposed does not look similar to what is in the area, I would say.
I was about to ask that question, is the home that is there that's completed, is it, what is the difference between that size home and the one proposed? In terms of square
This is
footage?
one of those, right? This is one of.
No.
No, that's
There, there's just gonna be a picture.
Can you pull up the site plan again, please? So I'm assuming those dashed lines represent the building envelope. So that's what you could fit that would meet all the setback requirements,
yeah, that's the same.
just for the board's benefit.
Yeah, so for the front yard, it's not the house itself that doesn't meet the setback, it's the entrance of the stairs with the
Okay,
porch.
what about the sides, Joe?
Well, the sides are fine because it's 9 feet and combined, the other side is 23 feet.
Okay, you need about 30.
No, it's,
Okay.
I believe it's 8 and 18.
Something like that.
And what about the rear?
And the rear would need 30, but they need a variance for that as well because of the deck that's gonna go on the backyard. And portion of, you can see where the dotted lines are, the house actually extends over.
Mhm. This is a two-story home, right?
Yeah,
How far up?
Well,
above-
it's a two-story, but the ground level is garage height
Right,
and then 2 levels above
two
that.
levels of that.
How high above ground would this
Uh,
deck be?
I think it's 28 feet high, top.
I thought that was the height of the building.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if the deck was 28 feet high. That's a lot.
Well, you have probably a plan that shows the rear elevation.
Right.
You go-
Yeah, that would be
This is
great.
for a single family?
Yeah.
This lot, where's this lot in relationship to the park? Is it right next door?
Immediately next.
Oh,
Yeah.
the-
Yeah,
The deck, and this is why I asked the question about how high the deck will be, because the deck will be 9 feet.
oh,
Even though we're allowing that like rear yard encroachment, we're also, it's gonna be 9 feet off of that part. I'm just curious.
so
if
I
they're
don't,
gonna be-
so it looks like the bottom of the deck is, the ground at the rear, this is on
yeah,
page,
the ground rise on the back.
yeah.
Okay,
So it's not that
Right.
far off the ground in the
Okay.
rear where it's higher, but it's, I guess if we were,
Is that the only exposed part of the basement will be the garage door. Everything else will be over, below grade, and, I think the grade line, related to the first floor is gonna be something around 3 feet, 2 feet. All right, 3 feet.
okay.
Okay, well, you can see the steps to grade, they're only what, 2, 4, 5, 6 steps?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The grade.
Yeah.
And I also asked that because it'll be closer to, I mean, the lot is undeveloped right now, but it could be developed in the future behind it, so. See
Yeah,
how those-
the property was supposed to be part of a for property development, so each lot has the same kind of plan. So they go back, right, with the other deck. And, as I understand from the original owner, they say that the deck was requested to be included from the beginning, because the current owner is not so interested to have a big or a small deck. We just interested in the house, like have a nice house, like the one that is already there.
so the property behind it will eventually be developed. Those 2 homes will be facing Park Avenue. This is the second floor.
Okay,
So it's that if what he's saying continues and the other properties are developed with a similar house, the other deck would.
but the other deck probably likely face that.
Yeah, they'd be, yeah, okay.
And just again, for the board's benefit, back in. What month was this? April of last year, the board granted very, very similar variances for 3 Sherman, both
Okay,
the front and rear, similar. variants.
right,
Well, to talk about the front, because we haven't really touched on that too, and there were pictures provided of like similar porches. I think that definitely fits with the character of the neighborhood, the small lots, the porches,
Yeah.
to encroach, so,
and actually theirs looks open. Some of these porches I'm seeing are enclosed underneath
yeah.
with either living or storage space. Probably storage space.
And with this tiny envelope,
right.
you know, they put the building right on the setback, so I can appreciate that, and I think that works well with the character of the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
On this application, don't have any more questions other than what was discussed and what's in here. Anybody before we open the public hearing?
No, I'm satisfied with the answers that we've been given so far.
I'm okay.
Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing, Brian.
Seconded, Corey.
Hearing no objections, opening public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now open. Is there anybody to speak on this application other than the applicant? Josh, Oscar, and now Pamela, I think. This is for 5 Sherman Place. Going once. Going twice, sold. Could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Second, Mike.
Thank you both. If there are no objections to closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. All right, can we go through the 5 factors?
Absolutely. So the first factor is whether granting the requested area variances would produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties.
I'm gonna say no. My stance, Corey mentioned some of them. If you look at the houses around, they all have garage, lower level, split 2 levels, so it seems to be within the character, and currently they're empty, so you could say yes.
Right.
Somebody wants grass across from them, but they're meant to be built.
And I think the applicant is looking at a blank canvas at this point, we're looking at 4 homes. one of which has been built. And as such, when you look at a blank canvas like that, you're trying to maximize the maximum amount of house you can get for the amount of money in this difficult environment and economy we're dealing with, so.
Give it to you. All right.
The next factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variances, excuse me.
These are small lots, which is not surprising, and I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, it looks like the building envelope is like maybe 20 feet deep, which isn't very realistic for a home, so there needs to be some give.
Thank you for checking language.
The next factor is whether the requested area variances are substantial.
I mean, they're substantial, considering there's nothing there now, but.
Looking at the zoning worksheet, I'm going to say that the rear yard setback is over 50%, so numerically, yes, but again, I'm going to say impact insignificant,
Not determinative.
not determined.
It's a balancing test, so
Yeah.
the factors against each other. The next factor is whether the proposed variances will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
My only question here is, do homes have to go through any environmental review when they're building on a blank lot, empty lot?
Single family homes are type 2 under secret, so they're presumed to have no adverse environmental impact.
Then that's my answer.
All right.
Sorry, Joe, I got you ready for nothing.
I was
As long as you get-
It's gonna be a new home, so it's gonna comply with all modern stormwater requirements, so on and so forth. I assume,
Just like for the record.
for the record. And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
I'm gonna say no. We get this, even though it's not new homes built all the time, we frequently get rear and side yard setback issues because
Right.
of small lot sizes.
Okay, those are your 5 factors.
Again, it seems we're likely to approve, so could I get a motion to approve, ZBA 2024?
Motion to approve, Brian.
Seconded for
All right, could we get a roll call vote? And the variances to be approved are, as listed, I'm assuming on the application worksheet, 10.19 inches for the front yard and 16.62 inches for the rear yard. Feet, oh my gosh, I'm so
Feet,
sorry.
yeah.
10.19 feet for the front yard and 16.62 feet for the rear yard. Yeah, very different.
All right. Michael Spock,
Yes.
Corey Spencer.
Block.
What? Why do I keep saying Spencer? Corey Block.
No, we're doing it.
Yeah. Brian Grano,
Aye.
Olga Montez,
Hi,
and Chair Brusick.
Aye. All right, it looks like you got 5-0. You're good to go. However, please wait for a letter from Joe's office notifying that you are good to continue.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sir, would you give your full name just once more for the record?
My name is Omar
And your last name?
Paredes.
Paredes. Yeah,
Thank you.
it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
EREZ.
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Amazing. Next up, and I know who's here for this. ZBA 23-2024, 16 Steel Court.
Thank you.
The applicant is seeking variances for parking in the front yard in a residential district and for the rear yard setback for a paved patio. Is the applicant here to speak?
I see Oscar. right?
Oscar.
All right, Oscar, your time is now.
And is. Hello, Oscar, if you could unmute yourself.
Good evening, how are you?
Great. And if you could state your full name and address, whether you're the property owner or representative.
Oscar Castillo, 16 Steel Court, Arsenal.
Are you the owner of the property?
Yes, I'm the owner of the property.
Okay. If you want to give us the highlights of what you plan to do.
Okay, yesterday, I think I did the HPC meeting for the patio. Today was, it's mostly, I do have a driveway that I'm trying to repair. And there's existing gravel that I'm trying to lay stones over. And basically that was the reason why there was a poll for today. As far as the patio, it's you know, it's not visible from the outside. It's it's part of the backyard, and it's just for the family, for my 3 kids and my wife to be there together.
So, yeah, the applicant in front of the, HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission for approval, because this is in a historic district,
Mhm.
Sparta district.
Sparta.
But in front of for your board, the variances are because for the driveway.
The driveway, yes.
The 2 parking spaces, one is half of the parking space, the one behind the parking space in the garage extends into the front yard. And the other one is for the patio, because it's required to have a 4-foot setback. It only has, I believe, little over 7 inches.
7 1/8 of an inch.
The actual driveway is proposed to leave the 2-foot setback requirement. Impervious surface coverage of calculation, is within the parameters of impervious surface coverage. So I believe it's just those 2 variances.
Does anyone on the board have questions or clarifying questions?
So it looks like the patio's already under construction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct, yes.
Well, I know I don't know if they're coming as homeowner or representative of the architectural review here, so I'm curious to hear from.
I actually have a question, sorry, real quick, like it looked like there's a, retaining wall. Built along the property line essentially. How tall is that? And it's like tallest point, because I feel like I saw 3 feet, but.
Yeah, it's no more than
higher
3
than
feet.
Yeah,
It was done by an architect. He came here and looked it over, sized it up. All the work was done, all the measurements were done by the architect.
does that require a building permit? Was a building permit?
Right, they received a stop work order because the work that was going on without a permit. And
Right.
how they submitted for a permit to the start of the patio and the driveway that they want to do.
So this,
Yeah.
this patio,
Yes.
sorry, Oscar, do you have something to say? Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, we originally was building a patio because I was, you know, I was informed that as long as you stay within the 3 feet, you were fine. But then as soon as I heard that wasn't the case, I had to stop everything, obviously. I've done every time I do something in the house, I do get a permit. As you notice, I've been trying to get a permit to get my driveway done for the past 2 years, so. That's what I'm trying to do right now, make sure everything goes right. Sorry, I'm with 3 kids right now, so I'm trying to manipulate feeding my daughter as I'm talking to you guys as well. My wife, she's a NICU nurse, and I'm here home in 03.
So is the envelope the inset dash line? And the other is the property line?
Correct.
So the patio is going, I mean, right up to the property line, almost virtually.
Yeah, I believe on that side, you see that, the person who designed, put the plans together shows a 4-foot wide setback. And the patio right now is about 7 inches. Off the property.
All right, I understand what's going on. Does anybody, if no one has any more questions, I'm curious to see if there's anyone to speak on it. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing, Brian.
Seconded, Corey.
All right, if there are no objections to opening the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now opened. Is there anybody first in person to speak on 16 Still Court? You just state your name and address.
William
Oscar, could you just mute your mic for now?
Okay, well done.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
William Hanauer, 11 Fairview Place, Boston. The north end of my property is adjacent to the south end of that property.
That's on the cul-de-sac.
His is on the cul-de-sac, ours is a dead end street. It's not a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting trip. It's very, very loud music late at night, often. I suspect that the patio, which says is being built for his wife and children, will also be used for late night parties. The pool that is currently there, or maybe it's gone, I don't know, has been used for late night parties, as has they have a balcony in the back of the house. And that also has had a lot of people, the speakers are up there facing our house. So I've requested several times that we turn it down. To no avail mostly. I've had to call the police a couple of times, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. When the music is still blasting, and I'm not the only one who's done it. So I basically don't object to a patio, to a stone patio. I just object if it's too close to the fence, which looks to be like it's right up against the
It's within
fence.
inches.
So it really needs to have a setback. And no speakers. That's okay. You'll notice that there's a page of photographs, but the photograph of our house isn't there because it isn't obvious. The two that he has there on either side of their house. But I think it's not there also because it's not to his advantage to show that there are other.
I could show the house. I'm right in front of the house right now. I could show you. Yeah, the line is actually the patio is not adjacent to his property, but I could show you how far the pool is and everything. I could show you guys right now on live video. If you'd like to see it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, first, Oscar, we're gonna use Google Maps. So you're in Liberty Knoll right now. That's
Yeah.
actually where I live, so.
Yes.
Still,
Not-
if you,
not inside Liberty Knoll.
no, I know. So Still Court is just past that fence you saw,
Correct.
right there, that fence to the left.
Oh,
Still Court's on the other side of that fence.
how am I supposed to get out of here?
You can click past the fence. It'll
Yeah, just
go to the
click, you
road.
see where the,
Turn to the left and click in there somewhere.
you have to see the entrance to
It
Stone Court.
it won't show you that side. I've been
But
trying.
you can
for a
go down, you
while.
can go down to.
Yeah,
Stone
the
Court.
Google Street View doesn't go.
So to
into
get to
the
Still Court, zoom out, yep. Go to the bottom of Still Court near the creek there. There you go.
This part?
Yep, go up there. Yep, it's at the top.
There we go.
It won't, it's not.
Oh,
it's
you
not
can't-
the
Oh,
road.
is it
Go
not
up.
listed?
No, we
No.
can just look at the aerial.
I've
that
been
would
trying for a
help
few
show.
minutes here and it won't let me. I can see Fairview.
Well, if you go back to the area, you can see the proximity to the
Yeah.
property.
Sir, what's your address again?
11 Fairview.
Would you mind just hit the
11.
direction button?
Yeah.
So hit directions and then just plug in 11 Fairview and you can see like the little arrows will show you.
What property line is the porch? And fence against right now, it means who lives at that place? That, somebody there lives at,
So you can see.
It's
Yeah.
14, it's actually my neighbors,
Yep.
Kimberly. Is 12, is actually, is it Still Court? Is it Still Court? I think it's what he's 12 or 14 Still Court. As far as the volume, I've I remember this gentleman very clearly, and I don't mean to bring this up, but remember you came here one time at 4 in the afternoon, sorry, when I was having a first birthday party for my kid, the first year I was here. And you were very angry because I had the volume down up. My son came to tell you what the birthday was about and you kind of ignore him completely. At that point, you don't ignore a kid like that, and that got me really angry, by the way. He was trying to shake your hand and you didn't do it, but anyway, this is
Oscar-
completely different, sorry.
Oscar, I just want to interrupt.
Yeah.
None of that is relevant to this discussion and
Correct.
technically, I don't even think that we can consider
The noise.
the
is-
noises as part of this board legally because it's not relevant to the. Because personally, I live near your house as well, and the reason I'm not recusing myself from the board is because my concerns have nothing to do from this application, because I live on the property right behind you guys, and I I've heard the noise myself and all that, but it's not relevant to this application, unfortunately. So we can only consider things that you brought up, which are actually are relevant and important, which is the patio and how close it is to the adjacent property.
Okay.
Line. That is relevant. And one of the things you'll hear from the board when we go through the 5 factors that you'll want to consider is the feasibility of an alternative. So
Yeah.
a patio is not required, in my opinion. It's something you're adding because you want it, which you stated it was for your family and kids. Those are the things that we can consider.
What other recreational spaces behind the home, a deck right now? Go back to
They have a pool, they have a deck, I believe, and there's also the closed cul-de-sac
and
with
it's
no through traffic.
where, how big is it, the deck is, okay.
It's
Why would you-
based on the measurements that the architect said is still within like the 35-40% impermeable area. That is approved by the town.
Yeah, so for the village for impervious surface coverage,
Yeah.
that has more to do with,
The
still, I don't know if you want to keep standing, I don't want to make you,
You know, I have another comment.
okay, we'll get back to you in just a second. Impervious surface coverage has more to do with rain, stormwater drainage,
Okay.
not to do with the actual layout. So yes, you're within impervious surface coverage, but you are encroaching on the adjacent property, and that is a consideration.
Got it.
Bill, you had something else to add?
Yes, in my history with the village, which is significant,
For the record, Bill is the former mayor of Ossining.
Aware.
There were several cases where people were parking on the front lawn. And they were stopped from doing that.
That's not my problem.
He's requested that be all right for him. And my feeling is no.
So.
That's not my property.
That's not your problem.
No,
Well-
I've never have anyone, I can't, you could clearly see my house. I can't park, how can I
Yeah,
park?
we're really not gonna do this back and forth. Everyone will get their turn to speak, but this isn't really a form to go back and forth between an applicant and a member of the public.
And
So-
just so you know, people will say what they need to, both Oscar, the applicant, and the public. That doesn't mean we take what somebody says at their word. We discuss
Right.
everything that's being said, but for the efficiency of keeping this civil, we'll just do one person at a time and we'll call on you when it's your turn. So parking in the front yard, even though we can't verify that, if you look at the decisions that the board's made, if it was regarding front yard parking, that's a very contentious issue, and we've been very strict in most of our votes on the past, regarding that. Well, parking spot 2 does,
You'll see a corner of that
I
parking
see.
spot is within the front yard.
yeah. All good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Is there anybody else first and in person to speak? Yes. Because we are in a public hearing, so we want to give the public the opportunity to speak first. If you have any questions or comments, we'll get back to you when the public hearing is done. Just state your name and address.
My name is Margaret Phelan. I live at 15 Fairview Place. And our property does not directly share a property line with this property, but it's sort of by the corner adjacent to it. So I understand we don't want to have a conversation about the extreme noise problems
Yeah, because
we've had.
we can't.
I
make
got
that
it.
consideration.
But I will say this, I mean, at some level, the square footage of the entertainment capacity in the backyard winds up, having some relevance, in terms of noise, because if you can fit more people in there, I don't imagine it's gonna decrease the noise level. So I think if you have more patio space, you can fit more people there. Just putting that out there, something the whole neighborhood's a little nervous about. Also, I have strong concerns about stormwater management as it is. Their neighbor and our direct neighbor behind us has paved over much of their backyard. And as a result, when you get rainstorms now, it basically shoots water in kind of a geyser under the fence onto our property. So as it is, I would say that this whole area, and certainly our specific neighborhood, has extensive issues with stormwater management. and taking away more of the area available to absorb stormwater doesn't seem like a good idea when storms are only increasing in frequency and severity. But from an environmental standpoint, I would certainly have a problem with paving over more of a yard that's already mostly paved over.
Great. So on his property, there's two considerations when it comes to impervious surface, which is what you're talking about, a surface that water can't freely flow through. And is frequently comes up for all sorts of area variances at the board. What I'm hearing, translating it to the plans, it looks like the majority of the impervious surface coverage is on the rear of their property, which is adjacent to both Bill's property and somewhat
One
adjacent to
corner of
yours.
it is, yeah, somewhat, it sort of contributes to the water flow at the back of our property.
Yeah.
I don't think our property line is on here, but it's all the same area, it's very close in. And then the other thing, I guess maybe my concern for this is rooted in, perhaps the number of people who can show up for any given party night, but I also don't understand why the zoning worksheet says that there's only one existing parking spot and they want to expand it to 2, because there's a whole driveway there and the photos show 3 cars in the driveway now. So I'm not sure I understand why there needs to be an additional parking spot in front of the garage when you have the whole driveway there.
Well, that's
And just so you know,
because it's,
Joe is the village inspector.
Yeah. building.
And
so, the zoning law requires that, for every dwelling unit, like a 2-family, you have to provide 2 off-street parking spaces.
Okay,
So one in this case is the parking space they're showing is in the garage, that's one, and the one
Right.
behind it is the second one.
but
And
how,
parking in the front yard is not, by zoning is not permitted, that they can't allocate a parking space in the front yard
So
without a
can,
variance.
so can we get the Google Street View? Was that the photo you were talking
You
about?
can't get a street.
Or no, not Street View. The
well,
photo.
it's the driveway. I mean, why doesn't the driveway contribute to the number of available parking spots for the
Well, this
property?
Because that would be parking in the
Um,
front yard.
Maddie, I did find an aerial view if you go on the Google Maps to layers.
That's how the zoning code is written, but it's not permitted in the front yard.
So you can see,
So the
if you
driveway
zoom in a
could be
little
over there.
closer, you go up, the pool's right there, nope.
No,
The
the
pool's
side
right
yard.
there, that circle's right there. You go up a little bit, you see the car in front of,
Yeah, okay.
and then the garage, and then that's their driveway there.
But the driveway continues around.
Yes.
Right, but if you measure from the house to the side property line, it's not enough wind there, I believe, to pass a car through there.
This is all done.
Right,
So,
that's all paved, so I guess I'm wondering why there's enough room with the existing driveway and presumably the repairs that are being made to park multiple cars back there that are not in front of the house, so why would there need to be an additional parking
I
spot?
believe the discussion was from the owner and design professionals, although they can get a car through there by zoning code law, you need to provide 12-foot wide, and they don't have that 12-foot wide. They'd have, if they decided to redo the driveway with the parking in the back, and that's a new driveway, they would need a variance for the width of the driveway. So in this case, they propose to say, well, the garage is there and we'll just have a car parked beside it and not have because it says a new driveway previously gravel, which I think is not going to be, I don't believe they were proposing to pave that, it's in the front.
Well, it says C paver.
Yeah, I'm not paving it, it's just putting laying down stones, not paving that area.
But it says C paver detail, but
I just know this because we did it last night with HPC. That's.
are those pervious or impervious?
Permeous.
Pavers usually
pretty
considered
impervious.
impervious.
Normally with pavers, you can, the stormwater will drain through the seams of the pavers.
Because there's sand in between.
As long as they have proper drainage
Right.
built underneath.
It's just stormwater is already a pretty big issue, right, where that hill we all live on is already, so this does not seem like it will help.
I guess my question to the homeowner is, the pavers that you're showing there for the parking are for the driveway that leads up to the garage. And alongside in the back is not getting pavers, correct?
So the backside has has gravels.
What the applicant explained last night was that the coming up from the street is going to be repaved.
Yeah,
But
that's gonna be,
certain point, it's going to be stone. going up.
exactly, in the back, yeah, correct.
Which is more impervious than gravel.
Yes,
So again, this to here is paved now. It will be.
Right.
Right.
And then from this line around. will
not all the
be
way around, just up to, that line.
Just to here?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
so
here.
this will be pavers.
So what's the intent of putting the pavers along the side to the back? Because that's not being proposed as part of parking area for parking.
Bicycles for the kids, more room for them to play around in. Hopefully have like a little backyard for like a basketball
think-
court. Yeah, that's
I
about
think
it.
we're getting a little off track here. The variances requested are for the front parking spot and for the new patio area. You know, this application complies with impervious coverage, so it's kind of somewhat of a moot point because the board, it's not within the board's purview to consider permeability at this point,
Yeah, it's area and side yard setbacks.
because it meets all the coverage requirements.
It's the thing that we can comment on things, but they're not relevant to his application because if it doesn't include the parking space that you're asking for permission for, so even though he might park a car there now, it might not be to code parking there because he's redoing his driveway. We're gonna look at that spot. He's required to have 2 off-street parking spaces. So we have to consider the variance and how close it is to that property. But he already has a pre-existing driveway, so that one's gonna be probably less of a discussion. What would be more of a discussion, if I were to make an educated guess, is how close that patio is to the property line at the
Right.
bottom.
And then our
That's a
second,
different consideration, which I think has more.
Yeah.
and the chairman will point out, our second consideration is whether or not is a feasible alternative to that. And
So-
to me, a feasible alternative could be several different ways
So by
to look
code,
at the, yeah.
that in that district, you're allowed to have 40% of your area of your property be impervious. And previously it was 35% and now it's going up to 39%, but it's still within code, so we can't consider that. Because he's not doing, we don't get to vote on any of that. Because he's not asking for
So the
variance.
fact that the whole back of the driveway is now being proposed to be paved and therefore will eliminate some of the pervious area is irrelevant because we're not talking about that very specific area right now.
So he's by
I'm not
right.
paving it.
He's, well, even if he did pave it by right, the pavers that he's adding are adding 4% to his impervious coverage, but he's still, I don't know if you want to look.
No, he's within the legal limit of what he can do.
Yeah,
for
we
impervious
have no
surface on
say
property.
in that.
Yeah, there seems to be some ambiguity about how much is getting paved, but I can't do anything about that.
So the part that's getting paved is only the part that's currently paved now. And from there to around the corner, it's pavers, and pavers with the cracks in between them, if there's proper drainage built in, is considered pervious.
Okay. So the increase to impervious is here. Only.
Yes. But we haven't discussed as a board yet the factors about how we feel about either of these two. Right now, we're just considering
Got it.
what you said, making notes about it, but
Right.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else to speak about this application from the public? Is Pamela, are you can virtually raise your hand if you have to speak, otherwise I'll assume you're on the next one. All right, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Seconded, Olga.
If there are no objections to closing the public hearing. Hearing none, it is now closed. Does the board have any other questions to discuss amongst ourselves before we go to the final?
Well, I like this back to the previous print, which shows the, what's it, 30 feet to the property line? So if you bring down the screen a little bit, you'll see, what's it, 30 feet to the, existing stone wall, is that his property? Lot A or not?
Yeah.
In other words, is he a 30-foot
No.
depth behind the?
No, that's some walls on the other property because that dash, long and short, is the property line.
Okay,
And then the envelopment or the envelope is the smaller dashed line on the inside.
So how many feet behind the existing wood deck or concrete platform is the property line right now? If you went straight back?
I don't think that's on the agenda. It's just that parking spot in the patio, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but we're looking at feasible alternatives.
Oh, yeah,
And would a
no.
feasible alternative to a stone patio be the extension of the deck or the extension of the concrete platform?
Well, because it's, in my opinion, not a requirement, my personal vote for feasible alternative was you don't have to do the patio, or you do a different configuration in that corner, or you put it in the back. So I see 3 feasible alternatives. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to-
I just
thank you.
labeled the third one, that's all.
Great.
But as of right, the setback for a patio is 4 feet. Right?
Yeah, so he
even
could
in the
count-
location it is, if he had proposed to do that with a 4-foot setback, he'd be within the impervious surface coverage, within the setback coverage, and as of right, being allowed to do it.
Right.
And I hear that, and so he absolutely can do that if it's a feasible alternative, but 2 homeowners said, and we've publicly seen on the board, I'm very cautious about impervious surface. So yes, he's within his impervious surface rights, if he limits it into that envelope, but because he's outside of the envelope, I do consider the impact of that.
Well, that's why I said to answer the question that's, that you're
Yeah.
proposing is what the distance is in the back, as though to say, why isn't the patio put in the back? As of right, if he leaves a 4-foot setback in the location where he is now, he'd be allowed to camp.
Yeah, of course, so there's
It's
3
not a
alternatives.
matter of.
But nobody
There's-
puts in the 16 square. foot
There's
patio,
3
though.
feasible alternatives in my
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah,
Do not do the patio.
right.
It's not pre-existing and it's not a requirement for any reasons that I know it's a
Yeah.
preference.
Mhm.
Change the shape of it so that it complies and is within right,
Right,
or put it in the rear.
right.
So I see 3 feasible alternatives. I think that's what we,
So I see the same field alternatives.
um,
And one of them is actually a no action, alternative, not to do it at all.
yes. Which sometimes happens. Corey, do you have any,
Mhm.
you have a lot more technical expertise. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I do have a comment. It's not a question. It's more of a comment, because I'm also familiar with that area. Both Fairview and Stillport, everybody's on top of each other. There's so little room that I think it's important that we consider protecting those buffers in between the properties.
Right. And that's the reason why.
Like the map doesn't even do it justice.
Right,
On Fairview, 2 vehicles don't fit. The street is so small. You have to kind of take turns.
right.
Um,
That's the reason why I brought up the third alternative, which if you take a look there, there's a fairly significant green buffer behind the house, but nothing on the other side.
I believe I would allow land use attorney to comment on that. I think what you have to vote on is what's proposed to you today, not to design. the
Well,
options.
we're not designing, but
Say we
feasible
don't-
alternatives, we absolutely have to consider, and if they don't present feasible alternatives, that's on them, but
Right.
there are feasible alternatives, and that's part of one of our.
Which can be one of your factors to
Yeah.
prove.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about, is that one factor, so.
Exactly right.
Does anybody have any comments on any of the other factors before we actually?
I guess. I'm new to New York, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like this is a variance that would apply then to the whole property for accessory like patios and structures then from now on? kind
it
of?
would run with this property, yeah.
It would stay with the property.
Yes.
And it
So that
doesn't-
Variances live with properties,
Right,
not
and it's
people.
not tied to the plan. So it would, I don't
So
know.
he
I
could
just
go
guess-
beyond.
Right, I feel very skeptical about granting a variance that would allow something to pretty much go up to the property line almost anywhere along the property. Then, even though that's not what's proposed, I don't know, I just feel like
Right.
So,
opens a can of worms.
So how does, let's just pivot for a minute. How does the board feel about the front yard parking variance?
I keep talking first, I'm sorry, everybody. Front yard parking doesn't bother me because it's particularly because it's a pre-existing paved driveway that is same as being replaced, and they're already parking in the spot they're seeking a variance for. And if they didn't get a variance for that, we would need to get them a variance for on-street parking, which we're loath to do for many reasons. So the parking as listed doesn't bother me.
It's only a portion of like the
Of the
back end
spot.
technically that's
A
in,
little bit just juts into the front
right,
yard.
into the front yard technically, so I feel like it's a minimal.
So are they asking to make it a little bigger?
They're asking for a variance for parking within the required front yard because a portion of that spot is in the front yard, so it triggers that variance.
Because they're redoing their driveway, it now gets triggered.
Well, I
When
think
you-
the
when
only,
we're
the only
talking about
the only question I have for the owner is because of the fact that along the side and the back, that they're adding pavers to that. It would make a difference because if that's gonna be included as additional parking, then a variance would have been required for the width of the driveway. Even though it's a different material, I don't know if the intent is to create more parking. If that's the case,
No, it isn't. There's the intention not to create more parking area. I'm not trying to park a car there.
well, only because the plan is pointing with an arrow to new driveway.
No, it's just putting, like I said, gravel is already there. That's already open space. I'm just laying stuff on it. It's just putting stones on it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not changing anything that's there already. Like that's already part of the house.
That's for you two, because I don't know how to respond.
No, that's fine, but once the board makes its decision, we go forward with the what I'll do with the homeowner and his architect is have them change that to describe what they actually use that as.
Okay.
So
If I just leave it with gravel and I redo my driveway, that'll be fine too. Right, that's
Oscar,
an option.
once we vote, because that's a little outside of the scope of the two things we're voting on.
Gotcha.
Joe can reach out to you about guidance on that.
Okay.
Is that what I was hearing, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. For right now, the public hearing is closed and the board has no questions for the applicant. We were just discussing the 5 factors.
No, I thought he was asking me something, so he said a question for the homeowner, so that's why I answered. Sorry.
sorry.
Sharon?
I guess before the board moves into the 5 factors, based on the discussion that I'm hearing, would the board be interested in asking the applicant to come up with an alternative to the patio?
For me personally, no, because as of right, he has other options, so it's,
Well, that's what I mean. Do you want him to request to amend, see if he can change the plan and come back with something different that either gets rid of or alleviate the need for the variance?
no, I'm saying that I am disinclined to allow encroachment within that 4 feet period. So he would be within right and not need a variance or need to come back to the board regarding the patio because he has other options. So I think it would be a disservice to the applicant to make him come back because he wouldn't need to come back. Am I reading that wrong?
No,
Well,
no.
can we
I
ask
understand.
him, I think that's maybe a good question for the applicant is, you know, you're requesting this variance, and one of the things that we have to consider is feasible alternatives, so have you considered any, and, you know, would you be willing to do it?
Oscar, is there a reason that you can't stay within the boundaries that are set?
No, there's no reason. I mean, unfortunately, if I have to
Yeah.
redo it, I mean, fix it so it actually obliges to zoning, then it's something that I will have to do.
So-
It's not something that
Right.
I'm not willing to do. I'm willing to work with everyone to make sure that, everything is within code.
So, for Taryn and for the board, my inclination is, and I won't make this decision unilaterally because we're all here, is that we vote on it because if it's approved, it's approved. If it's denied, as of right, he can go do an alternative anyway. But I think based on the discussion we've had today, it's important to put in the record a vote on the matter.
Agreed.
So for the 5 factors, could we do them together as long as we specify for each of the 2
Yeah,
parking space variance and patio,
yep, we could have 2 discussions within the same parameters.
Okay. just to make it a little more efficient?
Yeah, for purposes of resolution drafting.
Yes.
Okay, so the first factor the board must consider is whether the requested variances will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties. So let's take the parking variance first, parking in the required yard.
I'm gonna say no, it doesn't for the parking variance because they're already parking there and because they're repaving their driveway, they need to come back for variance and we require them to have 2 off-street parking spots anyway. My opinion is yes for the patio because it, while we can't exclusively by we can't exclusively use the homeowner's comments. This is not the first time we've seen encroachment. It's too close to the property line, both for rainwater drainage considerations, aesthetic considerations. And the reason the code is written the way it is for us to consider where it may be appropriate, but I think it will have a detrimental effect.
For, I guess, privacy's sake too, just it would be
Right.
detrimental to abut right up to the property line.
So there's no room to even put any screening, really?
Right, the 4 feet would at least leave room for shrubbery or something like that.
Thank you.
Any more comments on parking?
Oh, I switched over from the parking.
Yeah, I agreed with Kyle on both sides, the parking and patio.
And it seemed like that's the parking is a typical occurrence in that neighborhood. Because they're most
Typical occurrence
garages,
almost everywhere.
right, most garages are only in one space, and most people are parking in their driveway.
And any more on the patio?
My comments to the patio, which I spoke prematurely, were, it's encroaching on the property within inches, which is something I'm generally disinclined to do, and there's no real reason to do it. I think it would aesthetically look bad. I think it would and could have a potential drainage issue with the neighbors, based on my personal experience, hearing cases before the board, and based on also the nearby homeowners.
I also feel a recreational area, any home should not go right up to the property line unless there's no other alternative.
Yes, and here there is, which we will get to soon.
Next factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Let's do parking first.
For parking, I'm going to say no. Joe let us know that the 12-foot width is not available in order for them to park in the rear, so we can't ask them to do that. And they're repaving a currently existing driveway where they're currently parking. So forget if this was a yes or no question.
Yes, there is not a feasible.
No, for the parking, I don't believe there's a feasible alternative without having to get a different variance, which is then a moot point.
It could be a larger variance.
Yeah. And it isn't the whole parking spot, it is the bottom third corner.
Anything else on parking?
No, I mean, they're redoing what's already there.
But then the patio, yes, there would be several feasible alternatives.
There are several options that would be feasible just by staying within the bounds that are set in the law.
A couple things are because there's already a back porch and because the property owner already has access to a cul-de-sac off the property, to add another recreational space as the homeowner has defined for his kids and family is not a need. So a feasible alternative could be no patio. Two other feasible alternatives could be as of right designs that are within the envelope of permitted use.
I agree with Kyle.
Completely agree.
Okay. The next factor is whether the requested area variances are substantial, so parking.
Parking, no, because it's only a small portion of the car that would technically be sticking out into the front yard, and it's already a common characteristic of the neighborhood, so we don't think it's substantial.
I'm going to agree.
Agreed.
For the patio, I do think it does. The homeowners have expressed, and we've had many cases before the board about encroachments of different spaces, driveways, patios, etc., that could have runoff issues and drainage issues. Also for aesthetic reasons and nearby properties.
Yeah, and yeah, it's substantial because it's almost a variance of about 100%, like, 90-something% variance.
Yes, so it's numerically substantial, but we've also heard from board discussion and members of the community that it would have an impact significance as well.
So it was within inches of the property line, right?
Yeah. Seven inches.
Has there been any other variances approved in the recent past that was within 7 inches of the property line?
In this kind of
Like in
zone,
this case, in the zone?
we don't really do that. I can't remember.
I can't remember. I don't. There
I
was a
will-
similar case.
I will tell you, there was the case of the property with the stairs going down by the side of the house, and they completely changed their plan. They came before the board 2 or 3 times, trying to alter that plan because of this issue where we have.
Right.
property owners nearby and the board had questions about encroachment or drainage, retaining wall, some other things.
And we've had,
Similar, but
we've had
not,
non-conforming lots with front yard. It came right to the sidewalk too.
Yeah.
So,
but those were necessary. So a lot of properties
yeah,
will
you
have their
need,
stairs.
you
and
have to be able to
entrance.
get into the house.
This is a third
Right.
possible recreation area. That's not, in my opinion,
That's
a necessity to get a variance for this layout.
Well, in the spirit of fairness and setting the right precedent, I'm inclined to vote no on the deck, not the parking.
We're going through,
patio.
we're going through the
It's the patio,
factors,
yes.
right? So we're going through the factors, we'll just,
So this was the substantiality of the requested variance.
Next one.
No, I think so.
The next factor is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, so parking.
Parking, no, I took first time, you go.
parking, no, again, but they're just repaving what's already there and the variance is quite small, so it does not have an adverse effect. As far as the patio, it would go right up to the property line, so it would have an adverse effect to the neighbors.
Because the driveway is pre-existing and his total property is under the impervious surface limit, I'm gonna say that the adverse impact is no. Oh, patio. Patio, physical and environmental impact, I'm gonna say yes. It could be rain and storm runoff. It could be just the preference of nearby homeowners not to have recreational space or any space abutting their property line. The board discussed that and also nearby homeowners brought up their points the same.
And the final factor for the board to consider is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
It is a weird lot shape, so in that case, I say it's not self-created, but because they're all feasible alternatives and it looks to be a completely subjective choice, I'm gonna say that the hardship was self-created or the difficulty.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
For the patio.
For patio.
For patio,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
keep-
almost forgot
I
to.
keep not doing
But for parking, then I would say it's not self-created. The home was built like this, intending, I think, for people to park in the driveway.
it. And they're replacing same as, so they're just getting approval for something they had before. But I do think we should vote separately on these.
We should do two separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first vote that I'm gonna propose we make a motion for is for the parking spot as listed on the plan. Based on our discussion, could I get a motion to approve the parking variance?
Motion to approve the parking, Olga.
Second is Brian.
All right, can we get a roll call vote, please, on the parking variance?
Brian Granoff,
Parking,
parking,
yes, aye.
Corey Block, parking,
Yeah,
Michael Spall, parking,
Yes.
Olga Montez, parking,
Aye.
Chair Aberrizak, parking.
Aye. So parking is approved 5-0. We'll give the explanation at the end after we do the patio vote. For the patio, I do points, I listen to all the discussions, just like Karen does, our savior. And I feel though, that as though the board is disinclined to approve this, so a denial. Could I get a motion to deny the patio area variance?
motion to deny, Corey?
Second is Brian.
Could we get a roll call vote, please?
You can, so this is a motion to deny the patio variance. Brian Granoff,
Aye.
Corey Block,
Yes.
Michael Spall,
Yes.
Olga Montez,
Aye.
Chair Aberrizak.
Aye. All right, so for the applicant, the area variances requested for the patio were denied. You do have feasible alternatives, which may require you not to have to come back before the board at all. In regards to the parking area variance, that was approved 5-0. So Joe, with the driveway that's pre-existing being repaved, what's the,
Well, right now, the applicant put both items on one permit. We'll discuss it, and if you would like to make a change in the patio, if you want to take two separate permits to address one separate from the other. We can discuss that if you want to give me a call sometime tomorrow, next week, this week, anytime you have available.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Oscar.
Thank you.
Good night.
You too,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So for new business, our final application is ZBA 24-2024, 32 North Malcolm Street. The applicant is seeking an area variance for the front yard setback for the construction of the front entrance staircase. Hello, if you could state your name and address and whether you're the owner or representative.
Good evening, my name is Cyrus Mandwabi, Integral Engineering Services, 27 Main Street, Duxbury, New York. Representing the owners of the subject property, Victoria and Malcolm McDougal. We are in a T zone, two-family zone, 7,500 square feet. The house was originally built in the 1870s. We have an existing survey that was dated in 1973. Currently, we are asking for an area variance for the front yard setback. There's an existing, well, there was an existing front porch and entrance to the house that came into the front yard by roughly 5 feet. The owners, unfortunately, started work without a permit. We're trying to legalize the work that has been.
Would you mind giving your name for the record just once more?
Cyrus Mandwabi.
Can you spell the last name for me, Cyrus?
It's right on the MIANDOAB as in boy, I.
Thank you.
I was just looking at the plans to refresh my memory of the setbacks. Is it possible to open the zoning board worksheet? The zoning worksheet, sorry. Small variance on the front yard. And that is for stairs, which is probably the second most common thing that we see here.
Can we take a look at the photo of the existing site right now?
I mean, the house predates any zoning laws.
Yeah, we see stairs all the time, and we see stairs in
Yeah.
historic districts, and everybody's stairs that used to predate our zoning.
So you're saying it's just replace it?
Remove and replace, yeah, I mean, it typically, most districts, it's regular maintenance, you're removing, replacing in kind. We don't necessarily need to come in front of the zoning board, but we're requesting relief from this application.
I think if you, the actual plan, the layout plan of it'll show them.
Yeah, the second page is. I'm sorry, the third page shows the plan, second page is. all-
Even though it's a different district, it looks to me identical to some of the other ones we've seen, where they don't have a front porch, they have a small entryway landing at the top of the stairs. I have no question.
And actually on this, the entrance to the front, the platform itself would be in compliance. It's the staircase. And as we all know, the staircase, for whatever reason, is not exempt from setbacks in our zoning code, so.
Yeah, we should circle back to that after we.
Yeah, that's not a you problem, nothing else.
Yeah,
problem.
I think there's from sitting and witnessing the meeting, I think there's a couple of suggestions I'd like to make for you.
So if you go to the picture we were looking before at the front of the house and you're able to zoom in, you can see the stairs are in dire need, those front stairs. You can see the.
Well, these are the new stairs.
Yeah, those are.
They were just.
Oh, is it only the thing up the top?
It's just
not
not
the-
wooden
It's just
construction, correct?
those.
Yeah,
Correct, yeah, right on the left-hand side, the new wood deck or porch. That is the requested variance. The deck on the right side is as of right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, I thought it included rebuilding these things right here in the front where I see.
No,
Yeah.
the stone is not
This
big.
stuff. Okay.
It's not
That is a separate conversation
I was
another
gonna say,
day.
'cause I can see the.
That'll probably be the new homeowners that would like to.
and actually, the staircase that you see that's going up from the front there is actually considered landscaping. So the staircases that are subject to setbacks
Well,
are
I've
ones that are
learned something new
attached
then.
at all.
In Bronxville, that's considered art.
We're gonna say consider historic.
So for the board, are there any questions that are unanswered right now about the front stairway?
So it's the upper stairs close to the house.
The wood.
Yep,
Yep,
the wooden
so one
construction
right there by the.
I looked at this house when it was for sale and those stairs right there were very dilapidated, so.
It's,
And I love it. That's one of my favorite houses in the whole village. I said that. It's amazing. So best of luck to the new owners.
so we do have to open and close a public hearing, regardless of what we see in the room. So could I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open, Corey?
Seconded, Brian.
If there are no objections, open the public hearing. Hearing none, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone online? Pamela, are you here to speak about this application? If you are, you would click the raise hand feature in Zoom. It should be at the bottom in the center. Otherwise, we thank you for your attendance to this important Village of Ossining business. All right. I don't hear or see anybody, so could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close, Olga.
Seconded, Brian.
If there are no objections to closing the public hearing. Hearing none, it is now closed. Could we go through the 5 factors, please?
Sure. The first factor is whether the requested variance will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties.
I'm going to say no. A, because this is very common. B, because they need stairs and they have the smallest possible landing you can have without the stairs. So I'm gonna say no.
Agreed.
Agree.
I think it's absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
There's really no impacts on the neighborhood by doing this either.
Yeah,
Okay. The
except during trick or treating, but that's.
the next factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think the rise and fall of the stairs, you could even get it at a legal height where you could put it right up against the door. So I don't think there's an alternative.
The next factor is whether the requested area variance is substantial.
I don't think numerically or impact neither.
Agreed.
For like, it's like for like, so it's really almost.
The next factor is whether the proposed variance would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
I'm going to say no for many reasons, probably the most important being it's like for like.
It is visible from the street, so if anything, it'll improve the character of the neighborhood.
Finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
I do not, both because of the age of the pre-existing structure and the fact that he's kept the profile of it as small as possible. I'm gonna say no.
Those are your factors.
I think we're inclined to vote with approval, so could I get a motion to approve this area variance for ZBA 2024.
So moved.
Seconded, Brian.
We got Mike and then Brian. Roll call vote, please.
Michael Small,
Yes.
Cory Block,
Yes.
Brian Granoff,
Yes.
Olga Montez,
Aye.
Chair Abaruzza.
Holding down the ayes, aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I know work has already started, but wait for your reach out from Joe's office, right? For the continuing.
Yeah, once we get the signed resolution, we can issue the permit.
I'll end up signing the resolution, they will take it and yeah.
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks for the resolution,
Okay.
usually.
All right, no problem.
All right, thank
All
you so
right,
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody that's from the adjourned matters that was requested to?
I can give a little update. Joe might know more than me about 133 State, but with respect to Riverwalk, we recently got something in from them. They had a lot of homework to do, so their work is continuing. Yeah.
With 133 State submitted documentation, but they just didn't make it by the deadline. So
Gotta be
they're on-
fair.
They're on next month's agenda.
Great. Could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Brian.
Seconded, Olga.
All right, by unanimous consent, are there any objections to closing? Or adjourning, sorry. All right, the meeting's now adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Night, Jamie.
Night, Jamie.